Mr. Simpson.
Hi, I'm Craig Simpson, legislative and political representative for Amalgamated Transit Union Local 689. We represent about 7,800 members at the Washington Metropolitan Area Transit Authority and have another 2,500 or so dues-paying retirees. You have my written testimony. It's got quite a bit of detail in it, but what I want to do is try to describe what we think will strengthen a proposal that will strengthen the Metrobus system while also providing the service that is desired through the corridor. And there is an existing route, a 38B, which runs from Ballston to Farragut Square. It runs approximately every 15 minutes in rush hour and about every 20 minutes during non-rush hour. What we're suggesting is that route be extended from Farragut Square north on Connecticut Avenue to DuPont Circle, and that we add a bus, every other bus that would run between DuPont Circle and Roslyn, that would give 10-minute headways during the non-rush hour and 7.5-minute headways during the rush hour through the corridor. We think that proposal will cost out approximately equal. I can't predict whether it will be exactly more or less, but we think it'll be in the same ballpark. We'd ask you to check with WMATA so that they could look at the best way to do that. I don't pretend to have all the expertise that transit schedulers and planners have, but we think this is a good proposal that falls in line with other things that the District of Columbia has done to strengthen the Metrobus system, like the S9s, like the 79 Metro Extra service. Part of that would be to probably remove some bus stops along the 38B to speed the service so that you would have similar service to what the Blue Bus now provides, where it has limited stop service probably every 2 to 3 blocks, that kind of thing, instead of the current stopping. That in turn would also speed up the service. So we think that's a good proposal that we can postpone for another day the larger discussion, and would like to move forward in that area. There is more detail in my testimony about how that would work exactly, and I would urge both the Department of Transportation and this committee to look more closely at it and work with WMATA to see if a workable proposal could be instituted. I do want to point out that there, in regards to the larger issues, it is a vast difference between the wage and benefit levels of WMATA and DC Circulator. When DC Circulator was first proposed, it was proposed as an expansion of Metrobus service, and ATU Local 689 and the Labor Council both supported that proposal. When the actual implementation came out, it was done through a private contractor, and in an interesting way. The district didn't directly contract with the private contractor. It used WMATA to oversee the contract. In doing so, it kind of circumvented the Service Contract Act, and that's an issue which I think is one that we need to think about more. An act that normally would provide to all district contracts in this instance does not. The difference even between the service contract wage would be, my memory's correct, $18.95 per hour for a bus operator versus a top rate of $16 an hour for a circulator operator. So I think when we look at these issues, we need to think about what are we doing? Is the District of Columbia actively taking a role in undercutting wages and benefits? And I believe that it is, and I don't think that's a proper role for government to do. So I think what our proposal does is it does postpone for another day the larger issue of how the circulator fits into that, and would urge you to look very carefully at this proposal as a reasonable compromise to provide good transit service through the corridor while still maintaining good wage and benefit levels. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And so I'm just suggesting to you, and I'd like your reaction, that for the limited purposes of making the Blue Bus line more efficient in terms of its operation and perhaps relieving some financial burden, which we can get into in a moment, we could simply approve what is the existing reality and permit the continuation of this trip across the river while we get to these larger issues through our work group. May I have your reaction to that statement?
Great.
I mean, I would like you to consider the proposal that I've made to look at bolstering Metro service as an alternative. The reason I say that is because I think it would be, this is my opinion, that it would be better service. And the reason I say that is you would, if you took the routing that we suggest over the current routing of the Blue Bus, you would service 3 additional Metro stations. You would service Farragut North, Farragut West, and Foggy Bottom. You would potentially have more frequent service during rush hour, and you would have longer service hours because there's some early morning service that isn't currently provided by the Blue Bus. So taking an existing Metrobus route and strengthening it, at least obtaining Metro's input analysis and cost before you proceeded forward, I think would be useful, because it may be that for the same 1.5 million, you could get better service, and that would be a better way to go. So, I mean, that's what my reaction would be that let's at least look at this before we proceed forward.
Anyone wish to comment on the question I raised? But if I may press you just a moment on this, Mr. Simpson. See, on the one hand, the legislation before us would eliminate the boundary restriction, and I think, as Mr. Rosenberg pointed out, that is a major change in our legal understanding of what this was all to be about, and I think you're probably correct in that statement. But on the other hand, to take the Georgetown Blue Bus, where there has been dedicated community engagement over a period of years in developing this and making it happen, there's a sense of pride and ownership as well as operation and everything else, and to move that into Metro WMATA would be moving to the other extreme. You know what I'm saying? And I think that for this, the role of Metro WMATA is a very important issue in terms of understanding what our transit governance should be about here, understanding labor issues, understanding operations issues, which really merits, and I'm determined to do this, I'm not shelving any issue here. We're really going to move forward on a clarification of the governance scheme here, particularly with light rail on the way, which is a whole. Today, with our light rail plans, there is no decision as to who's going to operate the light rail system. I mean, did you get what I just said?
Yes.
We are laying track on H Street. We are laying track on Martin Luther King Boulevard, Junior Boulevard, and we have no clear decision. In my opinion, we have some broad statutory, yes, go ahead, Department of Transportation, go ahead. But there's no clear understanding of how we're going to operate this or who's going to operate it and under what governance authority. So we're under the pressure of the light rail issue alone to get us to come to terms with these issues. So just to recap the point, Mr. Simpson, is that moving this into Metro WMATA is an extreme on one side. Eliminating the boundary restriction is an extreme on the other side for a situation where simply this bus today crosses the river and serves Roslyn and comes back.
I mean,
you at least understand what I'm saying.
I do, and I certainly share Jeff Rosenberg's concern about the potential expansion to Friendship Heights, Silver Spring, Tacoma, and on around the city boundaries. So, yes, I understand what you're saying, and I share that slippery slope, and certainly restricting it to the current situation would at least make the issue come back before the council if in the future.